The power of being truly heard. Have you ever been in a conversation where you could tell they weren't really listening? They were nodding, smiling, saying, "Uh-huh." But inside, you could feel it. They were just waiting for their turn to speak. That's the world we live in. Fast to respond. Rare to truly listen. We're taught to give advice, to fix, to suggest a solution. But real healing doesn't begin with advice. It begins with presence. Carl Rogers, one of the pioneers of humanistic psychology, once said, "When someone really hears you without judgment, without trying to change you, it feels damn good." And he was right. Because we don't always need solutions. We need space. A safe space to fall apart. To not have the right words. To simply be. The truth is, most people aren't listening with the intent to understand. They're listening with the intent to respond. But what if, just for a moment, we stopped trying to fix each other? What if we learned the sacred art of sitting with someone in silence? Think about this. When a child cries, do they want a lecture? Number. They want arms around them. A soft voice that says, "I'm here." Adults aren't so different. We still ache. We still long to be witnessed, not managed. Parker Palmer said, "The human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, exactly as it is." Let that sink in. In a world obsessed with answers, there is radical power in saying, "I don't have the answer, but I'm not leaving." Presence is more healing than perfection. Silence, when held with compassion, can speak louder than 1,000 words. Because sometimes, what we truly need is for someone to look us in the eyes and say, "I'm not here to change you. I'm just here. With you. As you are." And let's be honest. How many of your own emotions have you ignored? Just to keep performing. How many times have you wanted someone to listen, but got advice instead? Maybe this is the call now. Not to become better listeners, but to become sacred spaces. Places where people don't have to be okay, to be welcome. Here's the invitation. The next time someone tells you something hard, don't rush to say, "You'll be fine." Instead, pause. Breathe. Say, "That sounds hard. I'm here." It's simple, but it's rare. And it might just be the most healing thing you'll ever offer. Comment below. I choose to listen, not to fix. Let that be your quiet revolution. Because in a noisy world, your calm presence is a gift. And maybe, just maybe, that presence will help someone feel seen for the very first time. You don't need a fix. You need a witness. When you're hurting, you don't need someone to fix you. You need someone to stay. Not someone who offers 1,000 solutions. Not someone who tells you why it's not that bad. But someone who sees your pain and doesn't flinch. You see, when a child falls and cries, what do they really need? Not a command to stop crying. Not a lecture about resilience. They need presence. Someone who gently says, "Dot, dot, dot. That looked like it hurt. I'm here." That's it. But as we grow older, the script changes. We're told to toughen up, to smile through the ache, to look on the bright side. And so, little by little, we learn to hide what's real, to push it down, to become masters of performance in a world terrified of emotional truth. But what if we changed the story? What if healing doesn't begin with advice, but with being witnessed? As Carl Rogers said, The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. Presence is powerful. It says, you don't have to be okay to be loved. It says, I see you, not as something to fix, but as someone to hold. Imagine this with me. You're sitting in silence. Tears fall. And instead of feeling ashamed, someone simply stays. No solutions. No urgency. Just their presence. Calm. Open. Grounded. It's in that space that something shifts. Not because your problem vanished, but because you no longer carry it alone. Psychologist Gabor Maté reminds us, the essence of trauma is not what happens to you, but what happens inside you as a result of what happened to you, especially when you're alone with it. We were never meant to face our sorrow in isolation. Connection isn't a luxury, it's medicine. So the next time someone you love is in pain, try this. Don't jump to advice. Don't try to cheer them up. Instead, breathe. Sit beside them and say something radical like, period. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You don't need to fix it. You just need to stay. Because being fully present with someone in their pain is one of the most sacred things you can ever offer. And maybe, the next time you are the one hurting, you'll remember. You're allowed to need comfort. You're allowed to ask for presence. You're allowed to be human. Comment below. I deserve presence, not pressure. Let that be your gentle reminder today. Because you don't have to be strong alone. You just need someone willing to walk beside you. In silence. In softness. In solidarity. Presence heals more than advice ever will. Carl Rogers once said, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. And in another moment of rare clarity, he offered a truth most of us forget. The presence that does not try to change someone is the very space where change actually happens. Let's breathe that in. We live in a world obsessed with fixing, with fast solutions, with responding rather than truly listening. But real healing? It doesn't happen in the noise of advice. It happens in the quiet of presence. Have you ever had a conversation where someone didn't interrupt, didn't judge, didn't rush to save you? They just stayed? Just stayed. That's the medicine. Not their words, not their theories, but their energy, saying, you don't have to be anything else right now. I see you, and I'm not leaving. It sounds simple, but it's rare. Because presence demands vulnerability. It asks us to sit in discomfort without filling the silence. To let others be messy without trying to clean them up. Psychologist Bessel van der Kolk reminds us, being able to feel safe with other people is probably the single most important aspect of mental health. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't need training to be that person. You don't need answers. You just need to show up, open-hearted, grounded, and willing to stay present. Think about this. When someone's grieving, they don't remember what you said. They remember if you showed up. They remember if you let them cry without flinching. If you sat with them long enough for their nervous system to stop bracing. Presence says, you don't have to explain. You don't have to earn support. You get to be exactly where you are. It's radical, because it's rare. Most people are so busy preparing what to say next, they never truly hear you. But when you feel deeply heard, without judgment, without being fixed, something in you exhales. Something in you feels safe enough to begin healing. So let me ask you, when was the last time you gave someone that kind of space? And maybe more importantly, when was the last time you gave it to yourself? Because presence isn't just what we offer others. It's what we offer the parts of ourselves we've been trying to silence. So today, be that safe space for your loved ones, for your inner child, for anyone holding grief in their bones. You don't have to solve anything. You just have to stay. Comment below. I choose presence over pressure. Let that be your quiet revolution, because healing begins the moment we stop trying to fix and start learning how to truly be. Sometimes, what we need most is to be seen. Not everyone who is silent is looking for advice. Not every quiet moment needs to be filled with words. Sometimes, the most healing thing we can offer another human being is simply this. I see you. I'm here. No solution. No fixing. No teaching. Just presence. Just acknowledgement. In a world that moves fast, where productivity is worshipped and silence is often mistaken for absence, there's something deeply powerful about being still with someone and letting them be. You see, most people don't want to be saved. They want to be witnessed. They want to be felt. Psychologist Stephen Porges, creator of the polyvagal theory, explains that our nervous systems are wired for safety in connection. That means we regulate better, breathe deeper, and feel safer. Not because someone gives us the perfect words, but because they stay. Because we're not alone. Imagine a child who falls and scrapes their knee. They don't need a lecture. They don't need a motivational quote. They need someone to crouch down beside them and whisper, I see you're hurt. I'm here. That's what love looks like. But somewhere along the way, we started replacing that kind of compassion with performance. We started offering cliches instead of comfort. Stay strong. Everything happens for a reason. At least it's not worse. And while those words might mean well, they can feel hollow. Because at our core, we're not looking for logic. We're looking for being. We're looking to be seen, not solved. Carl Jung once said, know all the theories, master all the techniques, but as you touch a human soul, be just another human soul. Think about the last time you were going through something hard. What helped you more? Someone trying to fix you? Or someone who just sat beside you and didn't look away? There's something sacred about that kind of presence. It tells the nervous system, you are not too much. You don't have to explain. You are not invisible. And you don't have to say the perfect thing to offer it. You just have to be willing to stay, to witness. Because sometimes the most healing sentence in the world is not, you'll get through this. It's simply, I see you. So today, let that be your practice. Let it be your offering. To a friend. To a stranger. To yourself. The next time someone is hurting and you don't know what to say, don't search for the right answer. Just be the right presence. Comment below. I choose to see others without fixing them. Let that intention ripple through your relationships. Because in the end, we don't heal by being taught what to feel. We heal by being given permission to feel it, together. Presence is the purest gift, beyond words, logic, or fixing. Have you ever sat beside someone in their sorrow and found yourself speechless? Yet somehow, the silence between you became sacred. Not because you said something wise. Not because you found a solution, but simply because you were there. Fully. Without rushing to fix. Without analyzing. Without trying to make it better. Presence, in its purest form, is something far greater than words. It's your breath fully surrendered to the present moment. It's a non-judgmental gaze. A hand gently resting on another, with no need to explain. Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen once said, "The most basic and powerful way to connect to another person is to listen. Just listen." Perhaps the most important thing we ever give each other is our attention. In a world that's always rushing to speak, to answer, to react, slow, wholehearted presence becomes a revolutionary act. You don't need to be a skilled listener to be a healing presence. You just need to be truly here. To sit with someone in their pain and say silently with your presence, "I see you. I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere." Carl Rogers, the father of humanistic therapy, once wrote, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." That's the paradox of healing. Unconditional acceptance is the doorway to transformation. And you can offer that gift. Starting today. No advanced training needed. No perfect advice required. Just an open heart and the courage to stay close. Try this. The next time someone shares something hard, pause. Look into their eyes. Breathe with them. And let your presence be the first thing they feel. Sometimes we don't need advice. We just need someone who stays. There are moments in life when words fall short. Moments when no solution can fix what's broken inside. And in those moments, we don't need advice. We don't need someone to tell us what to do, how to heal, or why to look on the bright side. We just need someone to stay, not to speak, to stay, not to fix, to stay, not to fill the silence, but to honor it. You see, the deepest form of love isn't found in eloquent answers. It's found in the quiet presence of someone who refuses to leave. Someone who doesn't get uncomfortable with your discomfort. Someone who sits with you in the shadows. Not because they have a flashlight, but because they know darkness shared is less heavy. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote, "Do not now seek the answers, live the questions now. Perhaps you will gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer." And maybe that's the most sacred thing we can offer someone, not a rushed answer, but the patience to live the question with them. Think about a child who falls and cries. What they need in that moment isn't logic. They don't need someone to say, "It's not that bad." They need arms. They need presence. They need someone to kneel beside them and whisper with their eyes, "I see your pain. I'm here." Adults are no different. Our pain may change shape, but our needs remain startlingly simple. As trauma specialist Dr. Gabor Maté puts it, the essence of trauma is disconnection from the self, and the healing is through reconnection, with self and with others. We heal not when someone gives us the perfect words, but when someone gives us their presence without trying to change us. So here's a question worth asking. When someone you love is hurting, can you stay long enough to not fix them? Can you resist the urge to explain it away or rush toward hope? Can you let them be, not because you don't care, but because you care deeply enough to honor their pace? Carl Rogers, a pioneer of humanistic psychology, once wrote, "When someone really hears you without judging you, without trying to take responsibility for you, it feels damn good. Because presence without pressure is healing. Love that stays, even in silence, is transformative. So the next time someone you love is breaking, try this. Don't reach for the right thing to say. Reach for stillness, for patience, for presence. And maybe that's all they need. Not a rescuer, not a sermon, just someone who stays. Comment below. I choose presence over pressure. Let this be your quiet revolution. In a world obsessed with fixing, choose to simply witness. Because the deepest healing often begins, not when someone solves your pain, but when someone refuses to walk away from it. Healing doesn't always begin with doing more. Sometimes it begins when you finally stop. We live in a culture that glorifies doing, fixing, solving, optimizing. We're told that healing is about taking action, reading more books, starting new routines, trying harder, being better. But what if healing doesn't always begin with doing something new? What if true healing begins the moment you stop? Stop rushing to fix. Stop forcing an outcome. Stop performing okayness just to feel in control. And instead, just begin to be here. Right here. In this moment. With whatever is real inside you. Because sometimes, the most radical act of healing is not another self-improvement checklist. It's permission to be still. To stop analyzing. To stop striving. To stop trying to make your pain go away. There's a sacred truth I've learned from both psychology and lived experience. What we resist persists. But what we stay present with begins to soften. Carl Jung once said, "We cannot change anything unless we accept it." Condemnation does not liberate. It oppresses. And that's the paradox of healing. The more you fight your pain, the more power it gains. But the moment you sit with it, gently, openly, without pressure, something changes. Not because the pain disappears, but because you are no longer abandoning yourself in the process. Think about it. When was the last time you simply sat with yourself? No phone, no distraction, no fix-it agenda. Just breathe, just presence. Can you remember what it feels like to meet yourself without judgment? In somatic healing, we talk about co-regulation, how nervous systems calm down in safe presence. But here's what many forget. You can also be a safe presence for yourself. As Dr. Kristen Neff, pioneer in self-compassion research, says, self-compassion is simply giving the same kindness to ourselves that we would give to a friend. So maybe today you don't need another answer. Maybe you just need to stop running from the question. Can you sit with your grief without trying to numb it? Can you breathe with your anxiety without needing it to leave? Can you hold your loneliness without shaming it away? That's where the miracle begins. Healing isn't always loud. It isn't always visible. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's just you, sitting with your truth long enough for it to exhale. So today, I invite you to stop doing and just be here. Try this. Find a quiet moment. Put your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath. And simply say, I'm allowed to be here, just as I am. Let that be your first step. Not toward fixing yourself, but toward finally being with yourself. And when you're ready, there's more waiting in the next part. We'll explore how presence, shared or solitary, becomes the doorway to emotional freedom. Comment below. I give myself permission to pause, to be, to heal. Because healing isn't something you force. It's something you allow. And it starts right now.